Good afternoon. Welcome to this session on the overview of eProcurement. My name is Benjamin Ho, Deputy Procurement Officer, and I will be walking you through the introduction to eProcurement. Please stop me if you do have any questions. As Millie mentioned, this is being live streamed and recorded for YouTube, so the screens will be enlarged a little bit when we do the live demo so that the YouTube viewers can see, even though we can see clearly in this room, they have a more limited resolution of viewing, so bear with us as some of the screens may look rather large. But next slide, please. So what is eProcurement? eProcurement is basically a way for you guys, the vendors, to do business with the City of Chicago electronically. As you know, you've been submitting paper bids in a variety of different areas, in all these different areas. Sometimes you do submit CDs, but on the balance, it has been in paper. eProcurement represents a large shift in the way we do business with the vendor community, in that we will be moving to electronic bidding. So with eProcurement, you're going to be able to respond to bids, RFPs, and RFQs online. You will also have other features that you now have to call our Department of Finance and Procurement for. You will be able to do those self-service in the future. So you will be able to view and track contracts that you have with the city, releases that are issued by the city, receipts that the city has done against invoices that you send. You can see payments and invoices, where they are in the processing cycle. And eventually you will be able to electronically submit invoices. This will not be ready right at the beginning, but our Department of Finance is working on that even as we speak, and this functionality we would expect to be rolled out later towards the end of the year, or perhaps early next year. Next slide. So key objectives of the eProcurement project. The main one I've mentioned to you is to allow you to download and respond to solicitations electronically. There's a number of things that eProcurement has already been doing for the city internal process, and as many of you know, the City of Chicago internal process does impact you guys, in that if there's a bureaucratic internal process, then this impacts how quickly you get paid and how quickly contracts are awarded. So eProcurement is meant to streamline those processes. So the creation of contracts, amendments, modifications, and extensions should go quicker once we are fully implemented. And paper-based processes where your contracts packages get approved in paper and moved from one desk to another, that will all be moving to electronic approvals internally, which should greatly speed up the approval process. We also have internal tracking, which is being consolidated into the eProcurement system. And finally, information about your registration with us as a vendor and communications to you are all being streamlined and combined into eProcurement. Next slide, please. So we have something called iSupplier, which is your main doorway, your gateway into eProcurement. So the iSupplier module are the screens by which you will be utilizing eProcurement for your online bidding and for checking your financial and contract information with the city. The items that I mentioned earlier as benefits to you, such as viewing and responding to the bids, the orders, payments, invoices, will all be visible to you through the iSupplier module. Another thing that you can also do is update your company information, your contacts, address, phone, and email, and this will help us get you your releases and your contracts in a more accurate fashion. To assist you guys with the use of the iSupplier module, we have developed something called the eProcurement microsite, which we will be showing you shortly, that has information about the entire eProcurement process. Next slide, please. So the eProcurement microsite has a web address of www.cityofchicago.org/eProcurement. This presentation, this slide presentation, will be made available on the main DPS website, which is www.cityofchicago.org/DPS. And from there, if you scroll on down to the bottom left-hand side, you'll see a icon that says iSupplier. When you click on that, you'll come to this listing of workshops on eProcurement and also the slide presentation and then the link to the microsite. Hold on, Lucy. We'll not go there just yet. Existing vendors will need to request an iSupplier invitation, which we're going to talk about shortly, and we'll talk about registration process for those who are not currently registered with the City of Chicago yet. You will need an FEIN number and a W-9 form. So let's go to the next slide. Whoops. So eProcurement microsite. Okay. So let's go to the home on the microsite, please. So the home is where you will land once you get there from the main DPS website, or if you type in the eProcurement link directly. And it will have an announcement area. So currently, there are no bids yet being advertised through eProcurement, but as you go down, you're going to see 4 icons. You have login and registration, current bids, online training materials, and sign up for DPS Alerts. I believe most of you are already signed up for DPS Alerts. If you have not, please do so. Click on that link, because the DPS Alerts will give you in your email a list of bids that are current with the City of Chicago. So if you want to be notified of bids that the city has put out there, please, please, please sign up for DPS Alerts. It is your main way of checking. It comes out once a week to see what is being bid by the City of Chicago. Please take a look at those business opportunities, and if any interest you, please respond. Now, as we go through eProcurement, I do want to let you know that eProcurement will be phased in. We're going to have a transition period, probably for the next year, where we'll have paper bids and online bids simultaneously. When you look at the Sun Times for your legal lands, it will notify you which ones are eProcurement and which ones are not. Let's go ahead and click on current bids, just so you, and we'll come back to login and registration. So we click on that. You will see that there are 2 links there. One is eProcurement bid and solicitation opportunities, and the other one is non-eProcurement opportunities. So the eProcurement ones are required to be responded to electronically. So we would like you to get registered as soon as possible, because that way, when it comes time to bid, you will be prepared. We will also be offering for the first part of the transition pre-bid conference training on how to sign up for eProcurement. But we'd like to have you guys who are making the time to come to this presentation today ready ahead of time, so that whenever we have an opportunity for you, you don't have to wait for registration. Non-eProcurement opportunities are what you're used to today, where you have to submit them in paper or on CD, whatever the usual way is. Those will, over time, get fewer and become fewer and fewer, and eventually they will fade away altogether. But let's go back to login and registration. So login and registration is key to the use of the iSupplier module. The very first thing you have to do is register. Registration means you're signing up for a login account. Like all online systems that you do business with, you need to have a login account. You can have multiple users for your company, but there is a main user who can create other accounts for you so that you can have multiple people at the company checking the iSupplier system. I believe that's how most companies will operate, that you'll have several people in there. If you're a small business, it might just be you. But registration needs to be done by everyone. Now, some of you in this room may have already received an email from the city asking you to register. How many of you have received any kind of email from something called workflow mailer, or you have? And if you have, that's an invitation. We did this for the top 300 vendors who do the most business with the city, either in the number of releases that they have or in dollar value of their contracts. We have taken the initiative to invite you to register for iSupplier. Now, if you have received one of these emails, you need to click on that link that is embedded in that email, and it will take you to the registration. Do not come this way. This way is for folks that either have not, you're an existing vendor who has not registered yet, or you're a brand new vendor. How many of you guys are brand new, never done business with the city? You have, there's 2 of you, okay. So the two guys who have not done business with the city, let's click on register and we'll show you what to do. So there are 2 sections of this site, this page. There's existing vendors, and then let's scroll down and you'll see there's new vendors. For the 2 of you who have never done business with the city, you want to click on new vendor registration. This is how you get your vendor registration for eProcurement. You will also receive a vendor number with the city of Chicago. Now, the rest of you, I'm presuming, have done business with the city. You want to, can we scroll up, Lucy? You want to click on Request Supplier Invitation. So that will allow you to register. You will then receive an email similar to the gentleman over there who received one already. And this will contain a link which you will click on, and it will take you to the site. You'll fill out your application information, and then within 2 to 3 business days, you will receive your registration from the city of Chicago. You do need to provide a W-9 and your FEIN number. This is how we guarantee that we will match you up to your vendor record in the city of Chicago, or that we'll have you properly on file for new vendors. Any questions so far about this registration process? Yes, sir.
I have a question. You were talking about in the beginning that being able to look at the details of your contract, releases, payments, etc. Is that only, you can only view your contract, or can you review all contracts?
Okay, for the benefit of our YouTube viewers, I will repeat your question. So your question is, can we view other contracts other than your own when we get into iSupplier? And the answer is that iSupplier is meant to give you access to your contract information, your releases, your invoices, payments, etc. There is publicly available information on the vendor's contracts and payments website, which will give you information about you, and all members of the public have access to this. Have you seen that site?
Right, but it doesn't give you releases.
No, releases are private to the company that is doing business with the city. So release information can't. If you want other companies' releases, that would be a freedom of information requests. If I don't believe they're available. Yes, we have a question in the back.
Yes, regarding request supplier information, you mentioned a
So go ahead and click that. What this is this is actually a mail to button. So what this is you're going to send an email to eProc support. That's what this button does. We don't have an email client, or here it is. It's starting up Outlook, whatever is configured as your email client on your computer, and it will. In this case, it's not configured, so we'll leave it alone. We won't actually set it up in your computer. It should pop up your email client. It will pop up a box that addresses an email to eProc support at City of Chicago. So Pam Walker-Smith of our Shared Administrative Services unit is the manager of that unit. She will send you an invitation, or one of her staff. She will sign into one of her staff. You do, because your invitation will be coded to your vendor record in our system, which is why you have to wait. You cannot, if you're an existing vendor, you cannot click the new vendor registration. You can try, but I guarantee you by the time you get down there to fill out your information, it's going to error out on you. It'll say, you already exist, you can't register. But then, of course, the way to bypass that is through that email, because that email will know that you exist in the system, and it will tie your registration to the proper vendor record. So any other questions?
The last thing, and that applies to this as well, you said you had to give your EIN number and your W-9. Do you have to upload the W-9, because you can insert the numbers for the EIN?
The question is whether we have to upload the W-9, and given that we can type in the EIN. And the answer is yes. There is a link that will allow you to upload the W-9. You either have to create it in PDF, or you can scan it. You can scan your paper W-9 and then upload it as a PDF. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to be clear. So with the new vendor registration, whether you're a small mom or a corporation, it's asking for like your company info. Once we have a master account set, we can have additional users for that account.
Yes. The question is, can we, once we have our master account set up, can we have additional users? And the answer is yes.
Okay. Thereafter, the request for iSupplier invite, then you submit what exactly?
So you can, once the question is, thereafter, once the initial count is created, how do we add additional people?
No, maybe I said it wrong. So once we have the additional people already set,
Yes.
right? We go through request iSupplier. Is that a separate process for existing vendors, or what is iSupplier invite exactly?
Okay, so once you have your iSupplier set for all the employees who will be using this,
Okay.
What happens next? Is that the question?
Yes.
So once the access is set, then we're going to show you what you can do with it. Then it's actually using it. Once you have access, you have your login password.
For correspondence.
For
Correspondence? I mean, what if,
I'm sorry. So the question is, would you use it for correspondence? You would use it for several things. If you need, one is, the main one you'd be using it is for online bidding.
okay.
And then checking, the second main functions is to check on orders. If you have a contract with the city, you can check as people place orders, so you can get your order.
Status. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to send correspondence to, let's say, the chief procurement officer, you would continue to do that either by paper or email. This is not meant to be a general correspondence system. It's meant for bidding and then also checking your status of your orders and payments and invoices.
So this is a dedicated channel for procurement.
Yes, it is. So let me make this clear that there are other systems, and many of you deal with the city in other fashions other than procurement. So for example, if you are checking on building permits or zoning or anything like that, You would not use this system for that. So if you, let's say you have a business and you're upgrading your building and you need to have contractor permits, this would not be done through the eProcurement system. Some departments have their own systems. Others, you still have to do paper applications. So whatever that department has for dealing with them is what you want to continue doing. This is only for dealing with procurement contracts. So I want to make that clear. And for the benefit of our YouTube audience, we will be expanding this to include contracts for what we call delegate agencies. So the delegate agency world is the nonprofit world of human services. They will eventually be using eProcurement for the grant applications, and there'll be additional trainings on that separately, but that is coming. Are any of you dealing with the nonprofit world? No? Okay, then we'll skip that for now. Let's go on to the next part of the site, current bids and opportunities. So let's go ahead and click on the eProcurement bid and solicitation opportunities. There is not a live one now. What we're going to do is show you what it looks like through an old sample, a test sample. Okay, let's go on status to, let's click on the status and then look at closed. So this is a sample of what the abstract page is. The abstract page is iSupplyer's name for the bid listing. So you've already seen a listing of bids on our website, which actually Lucy here updates that manually every day. In the future, as bids are scheduled, they will automatically show up on this page. They will show up in the following format. The first column, called event, is the kind of contract it is. So, for example, if it's a contract for commodities, if it's a contract for professional services or work services, it tells you the kind of contract it is. The second column is solicitation number. Solicitation number is just the number of that particular opportunity. It is an internal tracking number by which you would identify to iSupplier. This is actually more important than, for example, the spec number. You guys are used to our spec numbers. So the spec numbers are still used, but the way you will access the bid is through this solicitation number. So you would want to write this number down. Spec number is what you're used to. And the solicitation title has the spec number and then the name of the contract that you will be bidding on. So this one was just a test, post-production validation, go live, so this isn't real. The first one we will be doing for real is a water treatment chemical, and so that will be advertised in the next several weeks. Advertisement date is the date that it is advertised in the Sun-Times, and it's also the date that it will become available for you to start bidding on. Supplier response start date is going to be the exact same date as the advertisement date. The supplier response due date is for bids, is the bid opening, and of course all responses have to be in to the system before the bid opening. Now, bear in mind when we get to using the system, late bids already, as you know, are not accepted. But in this system, if you're 1 second late, then the system cuts you off and you will not be able to submit. So, and it's 1 second by the City of Chicago clock, so be aware of that, because in bids already there's no discretion by the Chief Procurement Officer to accept your late bid. However, in RFPs and RFQs, there was some discretion for that. I want to let you know that there is going to be no more discretion because the system cuts you off. So please be aware of that if you are in the area of professional services or architecture and engineering, because we don't want to hear any stories about, oh my God, please, please, please let me take my bid in paper because, it cut me off when I was trying to submit it. I don't think those are going to fly in the future, so please make a note of that. Protected market. So if this is a target market, this will be indicated here. Deadline for questions. So most bids and RFPs and queues will have a time when you need to submit questions for the pre-bid conference, and if you want to submit them in writing ahead of time, or sometimes, and occasionally they will allow questions for a few days after the pre-submittal conference. That date will be indicated here. And then to see more information, actually to view the contract, the solicitation itself, you want to click that eyeglasses, which is under details. So when you click that, you will see more or less the same information you saw previously. You will also see information about the pre-submittal meeting. So you'll see that it's conference. Sometimes you have site visits that will be indicated there as well. You'll see whether attendance is mandatory or optional. We don't generally have mandatory, but we're going to have mandatory for the first part of the transition, so that people who have not signed up for iSupplier can ask questions about the sign-up process. Not everybody will have a chance to attend one of these workshops here, so we will then provide that information on signing up for the online bidding at that mandatory pre-bid conference. The date and time is there, the conference location is there, and then to actually view the solicitation, you need to click at the top. There's a link that says PDF file. Please note, for the eProcurement solicitations will not be available in bid and bond. We want to encourage people to respond to them electronically. Otherwise, if they were in paper and bid and bond, it would defeat the whole purpose of going electronic. So you can view them here. All right. Do you want to download that, Lucy, and then try to open it from the download? So the PDF file is the complete file for you to look through, so that you can see the detailed specs, you'll see the lines, and you'll see the terms and conditions and any attachments, your MWB, requirements, etc. Everything that you're used to seeing will be available in the PDF file, and then you can decide whether you want to bid on it. Did I see a question in the back?
You did. I have several, so you want to slow it down for YouTube. Sorry, I forgot her name. Lucy. Is she able to go back a couple slides, a couple pages? I had a question on the responsiveness. If you're going to move to an e-system, which I assume would be phased in.
Yes.
And the questions that are being asked, will that be a blog where they can respond in real time, or we submit the question, you respond back to us by 24 hours?
Okay, good question. I'll repeat this for the YouTube viewers. So as we move into eProcurement, questions that are asked for the pre-submittal, will those be blogged, or will there be real-time response? Is that correct? Yep. Okay. So the questions that are asked at pre-submittals, we will continue to have physical, real pre-submittals where people come, because it's also, we recognize it's a networking opportunity for contractors and potential subcontractors. So we will not be moving to a electronic form for the pre-bid conferences. Those will continue to be held somewhere in a physical location, and you are expected to come at that point. However, questions. Questions can currently be submitted to pre-bids by email. You may continue to do that. There will not, the system actually has the capability, the eProcurement system has the capability known as online discussions, where you can send your questions to the procurement specialist it's essentially an internal email system to this, and it becomes part of the contract process. However, it is not a blog in that sense. It doesn't show up on a website where everybody can read them. So what will happen is the procurement specialist will take questions received through the online discussion, as well as questions received by email, questions that are received live in person at the pre-bid, and then consolidate them all and answer them all, and then send them to all of the bidders through email. I think over time, as people get comfortable with it, can then distribute them also through the online discussion portion, but I think we'll use email initially until people get the hang of asking questions through the online discussion part. But it does not automatically show up, those questions, for the viewership of all of your fellow bidders.
Okay. Timing to move from offline to online is?
Okay, the question is timing of moving to the offline to the online. So I mentioned earlier that this transition is probably going to take the better part of next year. So it will be a slow transition to get everybody familiar, because the city recognizes that there are thousands of vendors out there, and we need to give people an opportunity to learn about the online system and get used to it, at the same time not disrupt our bidding process. So we're going to be taking the first few pilots, which will be coming out this fall, fairly slowly to analyze the, we're going to get feedback from the vendors and see how it's working, and we will be tweaking our process as we need to make sure that nobody suffers any, disadvantage from us moving to the online system.
No disparate impact.
That's right.
Right. So it's more of a test and learn approach.
We are testing now, all through the fall. We'll be testing what we will actually have a slide on this earlier, but as long as we're here, we have a slide called gradual phase-in, where we're going to be starting with commodities in small orders, and that will be coming in mid-September. Then we'll be moving to RFPs and RFQs, which is professional services. Then, after that, we will be doing work services and vehicles and heavy equipment, followed by construction, and then followed by architecture and engineering. So by the time that is all completed, we expect it to be well into next year. May I ask you what contract type you are, sir?
Work services, vehicles.
Okay, so you actually you're well ahead of the game. So because the first ones that you see advertised will not be in your area. So you can go look at them, get practice with the system. You'll have plenty of time.
Maybe some commodities, but bulk is work services.
Yes, but the commodities, what we're doing is the first several are pilots, and then as the pilots turn successful, then we'll be doing more and more. Then we'll be doing more commodities and more small orders. And once it's successful, I think we'll move fairly quickly to doing all commodities and small orders. But then we still will wait on the RFPs and Qs, because that's a whole different process. Each of these contract types has different business processes associated with them internally, and we want to make sure we get the business process right, so that this will not have any negative impact on you. Question in the back.
Do you have a template, or will we see it eventually, of what is requested on the bid information when you get ready to upload? You have a template of what you have to do.
The question is,
You have to provide that kind of thing.
good. The question in the back is there a template of what has to be provided with the e-procurement solicitations? And the answer is yes. When we get into the online bidding, there's several sections. There's a section called header information. There's a section called lines. There's a section called terms and conditions. And then there's a section for attachments. So up front in this is called the header section. The header section has an area called requirements. This is all the questions that are being asked of the bidder. And within the requirements, we will say, for example, did you include your Schedule C1? Did you include your Schedule D1? Did you include your insurance certificate? Blah, blah. So it's a checklist of all these things. And as you answer those questions, you want to make sure the appropriate attachments that are asked for are attached. So yes, it does give you that checklist so you can make sure everything is attached that you need to. Some things, like lines, will be filled out directly, like they're fill in the blanks. And then, so the system will stop you if you're missing fill in the blanks, but the attachments you need to make sure, because we don't know, you can put in as many attachments as you want. The system doesn't know how many to check for. So you have to be careful in matching your attachments with the checklist. So that's a very good question. Thank you. Other questions? All right, let's go on to the next part, which is the training materials. Can we go back to the microsite? Okay. You're in abstracts. Okay, here we are. So let's go home from here. And then go to online training materials. This is going to be important for you guys in the early part of e-procurement. As you're getting used to it, you're going to have questions like when you get into how you fill out the online bids, and, well, what do I do? How do I attach something? How do I send an online discussion? So those are kinds of things that you can see are addressed here. We have multiple videos and PDF documents that will show you how to do something. For example, if it's your first time accessing iSupplier, can you go ahead, click there. That will bring up a PDF document which will walk you through how you perform that function within the system. So we have lots of training material online for you, and please use that as a resource because it walks you through screen by screen of how you perform the different functions. And after you do it a few times, then it will become second nature to you. But I understand some of you guys bid frequently, all the time, you'll become second nature. Some of you, maybe just once in a great while, once every few years. In that case, these are good refresher materials for you to utilize if you come back to the system after not having used it for a while. Any question on the training materials? These are available for your leisure.
Can we just type in training material and it pops up? Or?
So if you are at the eProcurement microsite, there was that icon. Let's go back to the home and then scroll down.
Oh,
and you see online training materials.
Got it.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. And
There's
so,
a couple ways to get there, but yeah, okay.
all right. So we have gone through all of the various parts of the microsite that will, except, I'm sorry, let's go to help. Good one. Thank you, Lucy. So if you do need help, please check the materials first. And if you have questions after checking the materials, then there's 3 different places you can go for help. There's eProcurement support is a link to our shared administrative services unit. They will direct you with regard to login issues, troubleshooting. If you need assistance with your actual bid, it's better to contact the the procurement specialist directly, because in that case, shared administrative services will send you there eventually. You'll save a transfer by contacting them directly. Their information will be on the cover page of the bid, so you can email or call them directly. But if you have a technical question or registration question, you need to come to eProcurement support. If you do have a question about payments and invoices, there's another link, and it will take you to the Department of Finance, because procurement, we can't answer those questions for you. Finance department has staff that will address those questions for you. If you forgot your password, there is a self-service username and password reset here, which will come and you can put that in here. If this does not work for you, then you still can contact the eProc support email address. So let's go back. And then the final one is, if you do require accommodations as a person with disabilities, please contact our eProcurement support, the eProc support email. So any questions on this?
Right, how do you access this workshop? And the reason I ask, I did attend one of these sessions about 2 months ago, and when I went online to try to access the workshop, I could never,
Okay.
it never came through.
So let's go to the main DPS homepage. The question is, how do you access this? We'll walk you through the access part. So www.cityofchicago.org/DPS takes us to the main DPS website, and we'll walk you through how you get to everything I've been talking about. Okay, so you have Department of Procurement Services, and then you see everything. We've blown it up for the benefit of the YouTube viewers. We're going to have to scroll to the left. Okay. Oh, no. Where's the left-hand side, Lucy? Did it scroll down? Yes, okay. So you got the social media aspects. Keep going. Related links. Keep going, keep going, keep going. See, so those icons, let's stop right here. Do you see at the bottom here, it says City of Chicago iSupplier? Please click that. That takes us to this landing page. What is eProcurement? And so there's some explanation. There's the upcoming workshops. And then if you click the iSupplier link, don't click it, but just see the bottom here. The iSupplier icon that I was referring to, that will take you to the site that I showed you earlier that we walked through. I believe your question is, where is the handout? The handout will be uploaded here.
Not the handout, the video that's online on YouTube for this workshop.
Okay.
That's what I tried to access before, and I could not.
All right. So the question was, you tried to access the video of this workshop from before, and you could not. And the answer was that because the video quality was extremely poor due to, you remember we had a number of technical issues that day. So due to the poor video quality, those were removed from YouTube. So hopefully, we have also moved the facilities to up here today. We have more advanced facilities where we can record. YouTube is recording only the screen and not my mugshot. And it is also recording the sound from this microphone, which is why I am repeating questions. And so this should create a much higher quality YouTube recording, which then we will put up to the the site.
And if you
It does.
want the PowerPoints, what we're gonna do is we can email you this PowerPoint if you're interested. Provide us with your email address, because it probably won't be uploaded to the site today, maybe by beginning of next week.
And as we mentioned at the beginning, this specific workshop will be on our YouTube page, which is Chicago DPS, and it will be available immediately after the session.
And if you have an email address you want to leave, please do it on the sign-in sheet as you leave the room, because we want to make sure that we can get this to you as quickly as possible. Other questions? All right. In that case, we thank you very much for your participation today in this workshop. We do hope to see you again at other DPS workshops and hopefully at pre-bid conferences to come. Thank you very much.